Marcus Reed's hands were trembling as he stared at his phone screen, the blood draining from his face as he realized what he had just done. The text message meant for his best friend Jake, something silly and flirtatious about the attractive woman he'd seen at the coffee shop that morning, had instead been sent to Victoria Ashford, the notoriously cold and intimidating CEO of Ashford Industries, where he worked as a junior architect. His heart pounded against his ribcage like a caged animal as he watched the 3 dots appear, indicating she was typing a response. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when he was barely holding his life together as a single father to 6-year-old Emma, working double shifts just to keep their small apartment and put food on the table after his wife Sarah had walked out on them 2 years ago without a backward glance. The weight of exhaustion pressed down on Marcus's shoulders as he sat on the worn couch in his living room, surrounded by Emma's coloring books and the remnants of their modest dinner, wondering if this stupid mistake would cost him the job that was their only lifeline. If you believe in second chances, in the power of unexpected moments to change everything, please hit that like button. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts and subscribe to this channel because this story is about to show you that sometimes our biggest mistakes lead us exactly where we need to be. Victoria Ashford had built her reputation on ice and precision. At 34, she had transformed her father's struggling construction company into a billion-dollar empire through sheer determination and an unwavering refusal to let emotions cloud her judgment. People whispered about her in the hallways, about how she had never been seen smiling, how she had turned down countless suitors, how she seemed more machine than woman. But what they didn't know was that beneath the designer suits and the perfectly styled blonde hair was a woman who had learned the hard way that vulnerability was dangerous, that love was a luxury she couldn't afford after watching her mother's death from cancer destroy her father emotionally and financially. So when she received Marcus Reed's text message, clearly sent by mistake and filled with awkward, endearing attempts at flirtation, something unexpected happened. Instead of anger or the cutting response her employees might have expected, she felt something crack in the carefully constructed walls around her heart. She had noticed Marcus before, the quiet architect with tired eyes who always stayed late, who sometimes had crayon marks on his shirt sleeves, who worked with a dedication that spoke of deeper motivations than career ambition. 5 minutes after receiving that text, Victoria found herself doing something completely out of character. She pulled up Marcus's employee file, noted his address, grabbed her coat, and walked out of her corner office, leaving her stunned assistant gaping after her. The drive to his apartment building in the modest neighborhood across town felt surreal, as if she were watching someone else make this impulsive decision. But something about that accidentally sent message, about the vulnerable humanity it revealed, had awakened something in her that she thought she had buried forever. When she knocked on the door of apartment 3B, she could hear a child's laughter inside, the sound of a television playing a cartoon, and the normal chaos of a life being lived rather than merely managed. Marcus opened the door with Emma on his hip, her small arms wrapped around his neck, both of them wearing matching expressions of confusion that would have been comical under different circumstances. He looked at Victoria standing there in her expensive coat and heels, so completely out of place in his threadbare hallway, and his mouth opened and closed without sound. Emma, however, had no such hesitation, and asked with the innocent directness of childhood why there was a pretty lady at their door. Victoria surprised herself by smiling, a real smile that felt foreign on her face, and asked if she could come in. What followed was the most honest conversation of her adult life. Marcus, too exhausted and overwhelmed to maintain pretenses, told her everything. About Sarah leaving, about the nights he lay awake, wondering if he was failing Emma, about the constant fear that one illness or one missed payment would send their fragile stability crashing down. He apologized for the text message with such genuine mortification that Victoria found herself laughing for the first time in years, the sound rusty but real. She told him things she had never told anyone, about the loneliness of her position, about how she had confused strength with isolation, about how his accidental message had reminded her that there was more to life than quarterly reports and hostile takeovers. As Emma dozed off between them on the couch, her small hand clutching Marcus's shirt, Victoria made a decision that would have shocked everyone who thought they knew her. She offered Marcus a position as senior architect with a salary that would change his life, but more than that, she asked if she could see them again, not as boss and employee, but as two people trying to find their way back to something real. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of unexpected connections and the courage it takes to be vulnerable, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs to hear this message, and leaving a comment below. The months that followed were not easy or simple, because real life never is. Victoria had to learn how to let her guard down, how to be present rather than perfect. Marcus had to learn to trust again, to believe that someone could choose to stay when things got difficult. But together, with Emma as their small, wise guide into a future none of them had planned, they built something neither had thought possible. The cold CEO learned that warmth was not weakness, and the exhausted single father learned that asking for help was not failure. One accidentally sent text message had opened a door that both of them had thought was permanently closed, proving that sometimes the mistakes we fear most are actually redirecting us toward the life we were always meant to live. Please comment second chances below if this story reminded you that it's never too late for life to surprise you with exactly what you need. In the end, Marcus Reed's trembling hands on that ordinary evening had sent more than just a mistaken text message. They had sent out a signal into the universe that two lonely hearts were ready, despite their fears and their scars, to try again. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom and perfect timing, had answered in the most unexpected way possible. Because that is what happens when we dare to be vulnerable. When we allow our imperfect humanity to show through the cracks in our carefully maintained facades, we discover that the connections we crave, the love we think we've lost forever, are sometimes just one brave moment away from finding us again.